Welcome to the Crunch Time YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be giving my predictions for the AFC East, and I'm just going to say what I think the records for each team will be, and I'll give my analysis on the games they'll play, what I think their records are going to be, and etc. So let's get into the video. So the first team I'm going to start off with is the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to go from the teams that were worst last year to the best. So it's going to be Miami, then New York, then Buffalo, then New England. But that's not going to be the order, obviously, that the standings are going to be. So the first team I have is the Miami Dolphins. And I think Miami is a very interesting team this year, just because they added so many new players. They've added Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy. In the draft, they've added a lot of players. They took Tua, obviously, for the 5th pick. They took Austin Jackson, tackle from USC, I believe. He was taken 18 or something. That was early, in my opinion, for him. But they took him. They took Noah Igbenogany. So there's a lot of new players coming in for Miami. And with the shortened training camps, it's going to be interesting to see how all the players mesh together. And I could see this team having issues in the beginning of the year. So let's start with the schedule. Week 1, they play in New England. I think that's a loss. I just think New England is a very strong team, very good at home. And they're just good against... they've done relatively well against Miami in New England. Obviously, the Patriots seem to always lose against Miami in Miami every year. But I think they did lose against Miami Week 17 last year. But I think it's going to be a different story this year. Miami... I don't see them meshing well, and I just think Bill Belichick is just going to out-coach them. I have them losing at home against Buffalo, so they start 0-2. Buffalo's a very strong team, in my opinion, and I think they have a good shot to win the division. Then I have them playing Jacksonville in Jacksonville, and I have them taking an L there as well. So they're starting 0-3, and that's not the start you want to see. Obviously, for a team that has dark horse playoff hopes, no one's gonna for sure say, okay, they're gonna make the playoffs. But of course, their fans hope they will. Then they play the Seahawks at home. I have them getting an upset win there. I just don't think Seattle is gonna be prepared for them, and I just think that Miami will be able to get the upset. I think by that time, maybe their defense will start playing better. And they have two very good corners in Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. So they could be able to stop DK and Lockett. And if Russ is going to be running around everywhere, this team has a lot of fast linebackers. They have good linebackers too. Good depth there. And the Seahawks O-line isn't great, so maybe the Dolphins... will be able to get some pressure there. So I have them getting a win there, but then I have them going on a huge streak of L's. I have them taking, I believe, 6 straight L's, and then we'll go game by game and look at it. So they play the 49ers in San Francisco. I don't know anyone who's going to be arguing that one. Then they play in Denver. I think Denver's a good team this year, and they have playoff hopes. But in Denver, that's a tough place, just with the altitude there. Then they play the Chargers and Rams in LA for both of those, so they have a LA tour to say. Have them losing both of those. They play Arizona and the Jets at home. I have them losing those. And then they go into their bye week. Then after their bye week, I have them winning against the Jets in New York. Then I have them going, it's a nice run. So including the Jets game, I have them winning 3 of the next 4 games, where they beat the Jets, beat the Bengals, lose to Kansas City at home, but beat the Patriots at home. So at this point, they'd be 4-10. And then they play the Raiders and Bills on the road. And those are 2 teams that are... they could have playoff hopes, obviously, but Bills, I believe they'll have playoff hopes. Raiders is a little iffy just by looking at their schedule and stuff, but we'll move on to them when we talk about the AFC West. But I think they take 2 straight L's there, so I think they go 4-12. So in my standings, I would rank them 14th in the AFC. I know that's not great improvement. That's actually worse than what they did last year. But their schedule was so easy last year, and they got very lucky in a few games. I don't think they'll be able to repeat that this year, but we'll see when the season starts. So I'm going to move a little bit quicker now. I'm going to kind of categorize the games. Not going to go week by week. So next I'm going to go with the Jets. So the Jets are an interesting team. They've lost a lot of superstars on their defense, like C.J. Mosley and Jamal Adams. They're not going to be with the team this year. Obviously, C.J. Mosley, he didn't get traded like Adams was, but Mosley opted out. And I think the Jets are going to struggle a lot this year. I think Darnold could honestly lose the starting spot just because of how bad this team is. I think Darnold's a very good player. Not very good, but I think he can become a superstar quarterback, but they just have no one good around him. So let's just look at the Jets. They play 6 division games, obviously. I have them losing against the Patriots. I have them splitting against the Patriots, losing in New England, beating the Patriots at home. I have them splitting with the Bills as well. And then with the Dolphins, I have them splitting. So they're 3-3 in the division, which isn't that bad. But then they play the NFC West, the toughest division in the NFL, in my opinion. I have them losing every game against NFC West teams, which would put them at... So they went 3-3 in the division, so that's going to add 4 losses, which would be 3-7. So that's not looking too great already. And I'm going to look at I believe they play the NFC West. Yes, they play the AFC West. Well, they play both AFC and NFC. I'll have to move on to AFC. I have them losing to the Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, and I also think I do have them losing to I have them beating the Broncos. So I have them beating the Broncos, which would make them 4-10 as of right now. Then the 2 other games they play in the AFC are against the Browns, and I believe it's against the Colts as well. Yeah. So they play the Browns at home and the Colts on the road. I believe those are another 2 losses. So all in all, that's a 4-12 record for the New York Jets. And where that would rank them for me is, I think that would rank them 13th, right above the Dolphins by 1 spot. So that wouldn't really help them in the draft. So now I'm going to move on to the Bills, actually. So I think the Bills do end up winning the division. We'll look at the records right now. So the Bills play the AFC East, that's the division we're in. I have them beating the Jets once and losing to them once. Have them splitting against the Jets. Have them splitting against New England. But I have them sweeping the Dolphins. That would put them at 4-2 in the division. They also play the NFC West, and I have them going 3-1 against the NFC West. I have them beating Seattle, Arizona, and the Rams, and losing only to San Francisco. That's actually really good if you think of it, because the NFC West is a really tough division, and that would put them at 7-3. They also play the AFC West then, and I actually have them beating the Chiefs. That might be not many people I think would have that happening, but I feel like the Chiefs could lose to a team like Buffalo. That's a really good defense, and if Josh Allen is able to hit some throws, that offense can become very high scoring. I do have them beating the Chiefs, losing to the Broncos, beating the Chargers, and losing to the Raiders. So that would put them at 2-2 there. So I believe right now I have them at 9-5. Then I have them losing against I've been beating the Steelers and losing to the Titans, as those are the 2 other random, to say, AFC teams that they play. So that would put them at 10-6. And I know that's not an improvement from last year, but with a much tougher schedule this year, I think that's really good for the Bills. And I think they're going to take the division. That would put them in my standing if they would be 4th, as they would be the worst AFC team to win the division by record. Now I'm going to move on to the Patriots, which is the last team in the division I have to talk about. And I think it's very interesting for them just because they've lost Tom Brady. This is the first year they're going to be without him in a long time. The offense looks very different with Cam Newton. The defense has lost a lot of players due to opting out, but they still have a lot of superstars and they still have good players on that team. So I have them beating the Dolphins and losing to the Dolphins. I have them splitting against the Dolphins. I have them splitting against the Bills and splitting against the Jets, which would make them 3-3 in the division as well. I believe this is a very interesting division just because it always feels like there's a team that's going to be picking in the top 10 every single year in this division. And I could see multiple teams in this division picking in the top 5. So I have them splitting against it in that division, in their own division. Now let's look at the NFC West. I have them beating Arizona, losing to the Rams, losing to the Seahawks, and losing to the 49ers. I have them going 1-3 against those teams. I just don't think the Patriots will be able to contain Russell Wilson. And the 49ers defense is just, I think, going to really destroy this Patriots offense. I also think the Rams, if everything goes well for them, they can become a very high-scoring offense. And if their defense is able to actually play well, because they have a lot of holes on defense, if they can play well, then they can be a good team. They can win some games. I could see the Rams winning a lot of games, winning a lot of 35, 38, even some 40-point games. So I have them going 1-3 there. So I'd make them 4-7 or 4-6 actually at this point. So now I'm gonna add up with the AFC West. I actually have them beating the Chargers in LA. They play both the LA teams like the Dolphins this year, which is interesting, in LA. So I have them beating the Chargers, losing to the Chiefs, beating the Raiders, and beating the Broncos. So I have them going 3-1 there, which would put them at, I believe, 7-9. No, 7-7. Then the two other random AFC games that they do play, well, they are the Texans and Ravens. And I think they lose both of those. I just think the Texans and Ravens are two good teams that, we're probably going to be competing for playoff spots. The Patriots are too, but I just don't think the Patriots' defense is going to be the same this year. And it's going to be really tough to repeat what they did last year. So that would put the Patriots at 7-9, which would be 9th in the AFC for me. So those are my thoughts on the AFC West. And comment below what your predictions are and who you think is going to win the division. A few notes I'd also like to include are the Jets actually had them going 5-11 or 6-10 before all the opt-outs. They really lost a few key players. I had them losing a few games. Also, the Patriots losing some games with the opt-outs. I believe they were 8-8 or something before, but they just lost so many key players. I had to give them an extra loss, and that's just how I had the standings ended up going. I know some people might not like how the Bills, their record stays the same and they don't improve, and how it doesn't make sense that the Dolphins are going to get worse even if they got more talent. So, those are just my thoughts on the AFC. Comment below what your thoughts are in the division, and have a great day.